the National Institution for Transforming India. This is an initiative of the Honorable Prime Minister, which was launched in 2016 in order to create and promote an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship that would enable young India to flower and blossom into a nation of job creators rather than just job seekers. But of course, when you talk of a country like India with 1.3 billion people, where more than 50% of our country is also women and the girl child, it is very important for us to deliberate on what can take India forward in an accelerated manner, and making sure that we give inclusive opportunities and enable these opportunities for the entire population of both men and women. India has made great strides in the last several years on innovation and entrepreneurship. We are, of course, now a country with more than 55,000 startups. We have, as a result of many initiatives, including the Atal Innovation Mission, more than 400 incubators. We have 34 unicorns that have sprung up from India. And I understand more than 60 unicorns are associated with Indians, not just from India, but from across the world. And we have, in a COVID-19 year, which was a year of crisis, not only for India, but for across the globe, in that year, we have sprung up more than 11 unicorns. So this all augurs very well for our country. Our country has also achieved and broken into the top 50 in the Global Innovation Index. We are at a position of 48 and have risen from a position of 81 just 5 years ago. So that's an amazing amount of growth in innovation and entrepreneurship capabilities of our country. India has never lacked for great innovators, thinkers, engineers, scientists, artists, philosophers, entrepreneurs in its history, but they have never had the opportunity now to be able to really bring all their capability and latent capability to the fore in driving innovation and entrepreneurship and transforming our country into a nation of job creators. Now in this, Indian women have always shone wherever they have gone and wherever this opportunity has enabled them. You have a Tessie Thomas, who is now known as a woman missile scientist of India. You have a Kalpana Chawla. We have had presidents and prime ministers from our country who have been women. We have been very advanced in our thinking in being able to give women the opportunity and the recognition of their role in driving and spurring economic and social progress in our country. However, with all of this, we still have only 13% women entrepreneurs in our country. And that needs to be corrected, because the opportunity and the challenges that we have can only be addressed if we are able to enable women to become a part of the innovation bandwagon and the entrepreneurship bandwagon of our country. So in this context, Atal Innovation Mission and FICCI have launched a series of webinars focusing on women in education, women in entrepreneurship, women in livelihood creation, women in deep tech startups. And we have a series of sessions where very accomplished people from our women community who have been there, done that, achieved great things in society and in the areas that we are talking about would have a chance to reflect and share their journeys as well as their thoughts on what can inspire us further. Today, along with FICCI, Flow, which is the FICCI ladies organization, AIM has established a series of webinars, which will be leading and culminating into an event of recognition of women-led startups in the month of March. But before doing that, I think it is important for us to be able to deliberate on the topic of livelihood entrepreneurship for women and the opportunities it represents in a country as large as ours. So I'm delighted and I feel privileged to introduce three very, very accomplished women who have consented to become a part of this particular session. First, let me introduce to you Professor Rama Vaidyanathan. She is a professor of biotechnology and a director of R&D in the Research Institute at Madura Voyal, Chennai. Dr. Rama Vaidyanathan is also the director of the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Center of Excellence in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. The center focuses on innovative research, consultancy, and entrepreneurial education. It is funded by the DST And it has over 50, it has funded over 25 student prototypes and is incubating 4 campus companies. Dr. Rama organizes workshops on innovation for students of the university. She's the secretary of the Confederation of Women Entrepreneurs of India, Tamil Nadu chapter, and reaches out to women entrepreneurs in the community. Dr. Rama is also a regional mentor of change and volunteers with schools at their Atal Tinkering Labs. We are delighted and feel privileged, Professor Rama, for having you on this particular occasion to share your thoughts in the session going ahead. I'm also delighted and feel privileged to introduce Dr. Abha Rishi. She is the CEO of an Atal Incubation Center, a very successful Atal Incubation Center called BIMTECH. She's also the chairperson of the Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development at Birla Institute of Management of Technology and senior faculty. Abha has over 27 years of experience in industry and academics. She is a PhD and EEC honors from STVP Stanford University, PGD IBO, MFT, and MIB. As an avid traveler, she has traveled extensively across 21 countries in 5 continents as part of her work and research. Her passion and focus is student and women entrepreneurship, and she has mentored more than 1,000 women and student entrepreneurs. It is indeed a privilege and a delight to have you, Dr. Abha, as part of this session. And finally, we have Ms. Prerna Kalra. Ms. Prerna Kalra is the founder of, or the co-founder of Daalchini. She is, I hope I'm right. She's also one of the few Indians to hold both a Chevening Scholar and a Fulbright Scholarship. She was selected as one of the semi-finalists in the GDN Japanese Award, Reward and Outstanding Research and Development Work in 2011. I am very, very delighted to have Dr. Kalra, and she's also in fact, at the Niti Aayog, we have Daalchini present, and it is servicing the needs of so many of our people who are working at the Niti Aayog, and I have to say it's one of the most successful startups that I have seen coming out of the Atal Innovation Mission ecosystem. So with this, let me turn over to Professor Rama Vaidyanathan. Professor Rama, we are talking about women and livelihood entrepreneurship. And technology is playing such an important role in changing the way marketing is done, production is done. So in such a technology changing landscape, what role and how do women who want to be entrepreneurs, let us say in our not only tier 1 cities, but tier 2, tier 3 cities, what do they have to do? And in your experience, what leads on to successful women livelihood entrepreneurship?
Okay, that's a difficult question. We haven't found the answer, but I'll tell you what is the process that we are doing. Okay, so I don at least 2 hats. One as an ATL mentor and other as the coordinator for the New Gen IDC. My role as an ATL mentor, I think, is extremely important because if you look at the demographics, the age 15 to 24, they form about 8% of the total population of India and 17% of the total population of women in India. So which means this is the bottom of the pyramid if you're looking at women entrepreneurs. So we have to look at ways to empower these girls so that we have more people like Abha Rishi who are at the top of the pyramid, or maybe the FICCI chairperson that we had. Yeah, we should have had. So, at this level of school children, we are not looking at, them becoming entrepreneurs, selling something, becoming a CEO, but rather look at some attributes which I think are very important for entrepreneurship. So that I would say would be first is a feeling of self-worth. Second would be decision making. And third, the ability to take, I wouldn't say failures, I would say, maybe a mocking from a classmate, or the feeling of insecurity. Such things they should be able to take. So these are the 3 things. And sharing my experience with the ATL school that I handled. So I worked with the Corporation Girls School in Chennai. And when we started, the Atal Tinkering Lab in charge was extremely helpful. But when we started, there was hardly any response. Nobody would talk to us. it took some time for us to break the barrier. And after about 6 months, we found when we go to the ATL class, it's the children who are talking and we are only listening to them. But what actually changed the tide was there was a competition on using drones. And I got a drone from my laboratory and let the girls play with it, fly it on their own. Because normally, in a family, if there is even a toy like the remote control toy, it is the male sibling who will have control over it. So here the girls were very excited to have the drone to play with, and they were very excited, and they created a small video for one of the competitions on using a drone. So it was not a very polished video, but the children were very excited, and when it won a prize, there was a huge difference. And then things started moving ahead after that, a little recognition. And then the school was selected as a school of the month. And a neighboring school was selected as the school of the year. And so the principal of that school got to meet the president of India. So these things made the school principal of JGVV and the Atal in charge teacher more excited. The parents realized that their children were getting recognized, and slowly things started moving. Today, we are at a level when girls were selected as top 25 in the Atal Tinkering Marathon, and they got a tab as a gift. So they were so excited. And now, even during the same children, after they move 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, usually we don't get any children from 10th, 11th, and 12th. But these girls, as they're moving along, they want to come back because they are very hungry for the recognition that they've got. So this time on a Saturday, some of these children came to the Atal Tinkering Lab so that they could take the video for the Atal Tinkering Marathon. So I think that is excitement. So I think it is a cycle. We need to have small recognition so that increases the self-worth of the children. And then they are able to fight back some of the challenges that they have. The parents waiting outside who want the child to come back on time, and the problems that we face are the parents don't want to send the children for any workshops out of the school. But those are things that the child has to fight with and convince their parents. So, but I think the recognition that really sets the whole process in motion. So I think this is an excellent way that is happening in the Art and Tinkering Lab. Yeah. With respect, if I can add what we do in the university level. So university level also we do have problems in the sense, a lot of projects are technology oriented. So the first 2 years when we did our new gen IED incubators, we had a lot of, we had a mix of boys and girls. This third year we had an issue because of the COVID. So we could not have students coming into the lab, but we turned that into an advantage. So we had the students coming to Slack channels, and we made them go through the customer discovery and customer validation programs even before the prototype was made. So I think that actually I find is important because over the 2 years, after my own core system of people, we've got some technical expertise. We want something to be fabricated. We know where to go and get it done. But what is important is the attitude of the students. They need to understand what is the customer requirement, what do they need to do, and have an emotional connect that they want to solve a particular problem. So I think that attitudinal change, I think, is very, very important. I think technology, I think we can handle it to some extent with our skill sets. So I think the attitude change is the most important part in women entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Ramaji. I think you very beautifully brought out 3 or 4 very important things in your thoughts just now. One is the opportunity lies at the bottom of the pyramid, and how do we ensure that at the bottom of the pyramid and so many girl children and women are having the opportunity to tap entrepreneurial possibilities at that level. And that's where India's strength is also there. We have 1.3 billion people and we have so much of demand. So how do we address that demand through entrepreneurship opportunities that women are able to tap into? But for that, you also mentioned that there are 3 very important things. One is, how do you build the self-worth that women have to be able to address these opportunities? How do you enable them to become strong decision makers? And how do you ensure that they also build in the confidence? Atmanirbhar Bharat comes with Atmavishwas. and they should have the confidence that they are able to address the opportunities. And you have a lot of societal pressures which inhibit such thinking. And therefore, you also mentioned how the Atal Tinkering Labs is creating that culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in young girl students so that they realize the opportunities and the possibilities. And by supporting them, they can become entrepreneurs of the future. At the same time, you also brought out one very important point of having the right attitude, the attitude that we can contribute and we can become an integral part of the entrepreneurial bandwagon in the country. So that attitude is very important to be developed. And that goes along with the self-worth, confidence, and all of those other aspects that we talked about. Now, let me come to Dr. Abha. Dr. Abha, you have traversed the journey of startup, and then you have had the benefit of great education. You are now leading an incubator as a CEO. How do you look upon livelihood entrepreneurs? I mean, there are different types of entrepreneurs. One who are livelihood entrepreneurs, second who are startups and who are starting deep tech startups like the ones that are being incubated in BIMTECH. And then there are people who are in between, who are able to leverage deep tech startups to create entrepreneurial opportunities at a livelihood level. And we have many examples of that in our Atal Innovation Mission family. You have ALC, which is focusing on how do you create women entrepreneurs, leveraging technology and machines that enable them to become livelihood entrepreneurs. You have examples like Banasthali in the AIC-BIMTECH in Rajasthan, and you have A-Leap, who have also focused on food processing, agriculture, based agri-entrepreneurs for women in the villages and so on. So in your journey, how do you define the opportunity for livelihood entrepreneurship for women, and how does an incubator help, or other innovation centers help in this journey?
Okay, thank you very much for these questions. I mean, they're beautiful questions. And also let me thank Atal Innovation Mission and FICCI Flow for having this kind of a panel discussion, which brings to the fore the different dimensions which are there when it comes to women entrepreneurs and livelihood creation. So if I were to look at your questions, I would define it in 3 areas. So the first one that you talked about is like how women entrepreneurs can look at livelihood creation and how can they become livelihood creators. So it's 2 things. So the first one, which is about livelihood creation, is when they do it for themselves and they're at the bottom of the pyramid and they're trying to create something for the family and taking care of those things. At the next level comes the livelihood creators. And this is where we should have most of the women entrepreneurs, and actually they are also, because if you look at it, most women actually encourage other women to join into their enterprises. And I've seen this as a trend. Way back in 2011, when we had done the Goldman Sachs program, 10,000 women program, and we were doing it in UP and Orissa, I saw this as a trend, and there's a reason behind it. Because women, they understand the challenges that other women face. And so hence, when they are able to give a platform to other women, they definitely do that. So it's like a network being created. I mean, you talk about the brotherhood. So this is the sisterhood. So from Bhaichara, probably we are going to have Bahanchara out here. So the sisterhood being created, and it's very necessary because that network is what helps other women to leverage on it. And coming back to your second question, like what can an incubator do when it comes to these kind of things? See, I would look at what Ramaji has said. Incubation comes at the middle level. What needs to be done is at the ATL level, the schools, because the children need to understand the dimension of getting into entrepreneurship itself, getting that thick skin. I mean, don't be a shrinking daisy, be a rose. I mean, the rose might be beautiful, but nobody messes with the rose because of the thorns. So that kind of attitude has to be built in, inculcated in right from the youth. I mean, right from the student times. And then when they go ahead and build up, they are much more resilient. They are much more able to handle the vicissitudes which are there, and they bounce back to become good, great. That's how it happens. So an incubator as such helps by creating that network, gives in all the facilities to a women, plus the fact that we also give the exposure about the different things that the government has. Like there are a lot of government schemes which women are not aware of. Huge number of schemes that this government has created. So that exposure and the experience that not only they are in this journey alone, but there are lots of other people who are going to be there for you. So creating that ecosystem, creating that support system is what an incubator does. And other words, plus the fact is, don't think about men as your enemies. You know, many women come with this whole idea that women entrepreneurs, women everything, women. No, men are your allies. Take them along in your journey, and it's like the sides of a coin. Men cannot exist without women. Women cannot exist without men. Let's be very blunt and frank about it. So take them into your journey, and men are really willing to help out in many ways. So you have the bad apples out there, but then there are so many other good people also. So take them along into your journey and build up. And livelihood,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I was just saying that when it coming back to livelihood creation, so the earlier one is more generic, like what women entrepreneurs do and need to do. But when it comes to livelihood creation, I don't know, somehow people have this whole idea that women entrepreneurs only create traditional enterprises and other things. But the kind of applications that we have had, it ranges from creating defense manufacturing equipment to 3D printing. I mean, that kind of things. So yes, again, that geographical divide is also there. I mean, people coming in from metros and the women coming in from the tier 1 cities, they will have that kind of exposure. Like an IIT graduate is not definitely going to look at pickle making. But somebody from a village, I mean, who has had only that kind of exposure is going to look at that because that's the experience that they've had. So bringing them to incubators like us, like we do reach out to tier 2, tier 3 cities, and we bring in people so that they get that experience and exposure.
Excellent.
Does that answer my question?
Yeah, excellent. Dr. Abha, I think you brought out some very, very pertinent points. First is there is a difference between livelihood creation and livelihood creators. And I think the next speaker is going to be an absolutely wonderful example of how she has used livelihood as a livelihood creator. She is enabling livelihood creation, and we'll go to her. But also some of the other important points that you mentioned was, there is a huge opportunity for women to tap into each other's network in order to build upon this livelihood entrepreneurship capability, because there is a natural tendency on one side, but at the same time you should not allow the natural tendency of women being able to very closely network and work with each other to come in your way of not seeking help or looking upon the rest of the world as a competition. There is a tremendous opportunity for mentoring from very successful entrepreneurs, be it women or men, and to be able to extend your network into the network that exists, irrespective of whether you're a male entrepreneur or a female entrepreneur, is very important if you want to build upon your entrepreneurial success. The third thing that you mentioned in this is that there is an opportunity for incubators, like the one that you're running, to sponsor and support livelihood creators and many startups. I mean, we have 575 women-led startups today who are part of the Atal Innovation Mission family, and they're all in our incubators. And these startups can then provide the opportunities for livelihood creation through their innovation. Because after all, we are a part of a huge movement, Digital India movement. And Digital India has enabled more than 1 billion bank accounts for people all over the country. It has enabled more than 1 billion mobile phones to be accessible, and therefore smart technologies, mobile-based payments, mobile-based finance systems, these are all becoming possible. And we have 1 billion IDs, other IDs, which is enabling this unique identification to develop a slew of applications to support women livelihood entrepreneurs. So I'd like to know from Ms. Prerna, you are a livelihood creator through your innovation of Daalchini, and at the same time, thousands and thousands of women are able to now offer home cooked food through your innovation. Share us a little bit about your journey and how you're bridging this, both the livelihood creator and the livelihood creation, and what will go into a successful, and you're a good example of, and you would have seen outstanding examples of women entrepreneurs who are benefiting because of your innovation. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, So when we started Daalchini, right, our mission was to create thousands of micro entrepreneurs out of Daalchini, and a lot of now when we go back and see that what we have achieved, right, we were really able to give three things to these partners who joined our program on this was reach, revenue, and recognition. And like Ms. Rama mentioned and Mr. Abha also mentioned, right? These are some of the key pillars, right, that are there today as a pillar of Daalchini's buddy program, in which we invite women entrepreneurs to come in with a very simple step that they can come and say that I want to put up a vending machine, I want to put up a shop in ABC place, right? I want to put up in this office, or maybe I want to put up in this residential complex. I know this and I can get you this location. So very simple, very low barrier, I would say, that we try to create for them to join in, right? Once they're there, right, once they were able to join in, right, we were able to upgrade them from the buddy to a promoter and to a leader, right? And what are these stages in our program is that when you start your first vending machine, right, you become a promoter, right? And when you become promoter, right, you are able to, like, with the help of obviously technology today plays a major role in our whole livelihood creation platform, right? In which basically with the help of a mobile app, right, they were able to manage their own shops, right? Just by being able to, with the help of a simple mobile phone application, right? So all of this, obviously, technology is one of the key pillars. But coming back to on these key aspects of, I would say, culture creation of reach, revenue, recognition, right? Thereby these women were able to relate to our program. They were able to see that, okay, their food products are reaching so many locations. One, right? They were able to make money, right? Even those who just partnered with us just to create their own shops, right? We created supply chain for them, through which they were able to sell foods from partners like Bika Wala to Domino's to upcoming D2C brands like a lot of today, these days, a lot of ready-to-eat food products are coming into the market, right? And these women entrepreneurs wanted to basically be a shop for those products, right? Into their own residential complexes, because they could see that there is a possibility of making revenue out of it, right? So the second pillar, revenue, right? And recognition, because when they set up their own shop in their own residential complex, right? And this is not like a mom and pop shop which is low on, like, I would say, aspirations, right? This is it is considered to be a highly aspirational product, right? They consider it to be, because they are able to manage with the help of technology and everything sitting at home by spending just few hours on field and everything else on phone. They were able to manage. So that is recognition, right? We were able to give them recognition among their own people, among their own neighbors, right? Where they were setting up these shops, right? So all of this. So today we have about 300 such touch points today, right? 300, more than 300 such touch points, and we have so many partners, and a lot of our partners are women who basically got benefited out of this entire program. And we see this opportunity is still very huge, because we still know that there are 48 million educated unemployed women in our country, right? And there is an opportunity. Maybe somebody is good at business development, somebody is good at maybe making food, right? So can we provide them a solution? Can we provide them a platform in which they can just hook on with their own capabilities and then grow from there, right? So one person came to us, right, that she wanted to sell some, not food items, but non-food items, like some souvenirs kind of thing. So we also try to create this as a platform that tomorrow, if you want to do anything XYZ through this platform and create your own shops, right? Can you do that, right? In our country, there are about 1.2 crores mom and pop stores, right? Which is like every 100 people, there is one shop, right? But these are the kind of shops, these are there, like 80% of them are like highly unorganized, right? So there is a huge opportunity there. In a country like Japan, this ratio is that one shop on every 23 people, whereas in India it is one shop on every 100, 110 people, right? So the kind of opportunity is still huge, right? So can we create a platform in which this whole gap can be tapped in, and can we create a platform through which women, especially women partners, can join in and capture this opportunity in their own vicinity, in their own areas, right? They don't have to step out, right, too far from where they are, right, and then be there among their own people, right, and serve their own people through their own shops, right, which is basically with the help of vending machines.
Excellent, excellent. Prerna ji, you gave the three important things that I gained from whatever you said are: one is how do you enable reach for the women entrepreneur? Second is how do you ensure that reach translates itself into revenue, which is very important, and which gives tremendous confidence of going further. And then how do you also get recognition in the marketplace so that others are able to know that what you are able to bring to the table, and their self-confidence, self-worth, and all of those increase because of that recognition. And finally, you also mentioned, or you initially mentioned about how you are having the buddy system, which encourages more and more women entrepreneurs and livelihood entrepreneurs to come to the fore. How do you then ensure that you have a system by which you are enabling them to become a promoter and a leader in that network, and thereby expand upon their operations and expand upon their impact? And also, the fact that there is so much opportunities. I mean, you gave a very practical example of in Japan, 1 in 23, you have one shop for every 23 people, whereas in India, you have one for every 100 people catering Prerna stores. And there is a huge opportunity for us to fill that gap. So I think the opportunities are tremendous. I'd like to go to Ramaji now and ask, what are the women entrepreneurship opportunities that you see from the vantage point of education, and how education can help and empower women to address these entrepreneurial opportunities? And when I mention about that, what I'm referring to is, many of our women are in tier 2, tier 3 cities, rural India, where the opportunities are in agriculture, in healthcare, in education, in livelihood, in handicrafts or tribal crafts. In Tirupur, for example, there is a thriving textile industry where women can actually participate in creating dyes and or creating new material, stitching clothes, for example. In Vietnam, export of ready-made textiles or fashion design and development has become a thriving industry, and it is dominating the rest of the world. So how do we address these opportunities? Because without education and empowering them, it is not possible. What are the possibilities there, and how have you been approaching it?
Okay. So if we look at the stakeholder mapping of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, so definitely the education sector plays a very important role. Of course, the most important part is still the students in the age group of 15 to 24. The one group of people who have a lot of power over these girl students is a teacher. It could be an ATL in charge, or it could be a faculty in a university. So I think it is very important for us to understand what makes those ATL in charges or a teacher tick. What is it that they are looking for? Because every successful child that we see, there is an ATL in charge who has gone the extra mile, stayed after 4 o'clock to upload something into the ATL website, or she has to convince the parents to let the students stay late, accompany the students to a workshop. For a teacher who is probably in the age group of 27, 28, who probably has a child of her own, who may be 5 years, 6 years, school-going child. So making all those arrangements and then going with these children. So it takes a lot of efforts for a ATL in charge. So I think we need to really understand what makes those people tick, and what can we do to enable. Is it a recognition from the headmistress? Would that do? Or do we need to make these Atal in charge teacher interact with some other Atal in charge teacher in some other state, not just a nearby state? So we need to really understand and probably experiment and see what makes those Atal in charges stick. The second thing, you were speaking about the rural-urban divide. Of course, there is a skew. There are more children from urban schools who come forward, who do very well in these sort of problems, even though the problems or the challenges are more in the rural areas. So I think one way to look at that would be, so can, for example, an ATL have a competition where there is an advantage, unfair advantage for the rural children, which could be something like, if you want every Atal tinkering school to have a biodiversity map of birds or say flowers, as a child sitting in a city in a residential apartment, the only birds they can photograph would be a few pigeons and crows, whereas a child in a rural area would definitely be able to give a better variety of biodiversity. So these are small things that we could do. The other one would be similar to what there was a competition in 2 years back on Gandhiji's vision of 2020. So that what it held was, many of the children, they have ideas, but they are not able to communicate in the way it is expected by the audience to use certain words. So that again has to be done by the ATL in charge. But when you had a competition where the child just had to draw something which was in their mind, it removed that barrier. So I was very happy with the way the children were discussing and thinking of what could be done. They could use their native language and just draw something, and it was not about getting a prize, but about communicating, the ability to communicate using an art form. So I think those are two things that we can do. And third thing that I would like an ATL at an ATL level, right now the ATL in charges, the ATL kit, everything is focused on computer science, physics. The ATL in charge is invariably a computer science or a physics teacher. Maybe we should diversify, add one more teacher, a chemistry or biology teacher, add some more kits apart from the sensor kits, have a water testing kit, collect data from every ATL school. Or no, we need to look at what other people have done. I think this will help in bridging the rural-urban divide, give opportunities for the rural children to do better. The other thing that I thought I should also touch upon, which Abha said, was about networking among women. So I do see a couple of things, effort. I see a lot of efforts being done on networking women entrepreneurs. One that I was involved with recently was with an organization called Confederation of Women Entrepreneurs, which has a headquarter in Hyderabad. So I mean, they do most of the work. I do a little bit of helping with the Tamil Nadu chapter. If we talk to a budding a women entrepreneur, she may not be registered as a proprietor or something, but she wants to sell something, make a little bit of money. For somebody like that, they face two problems. They say, one, they are not able to reach out to a wider market. Second, they are not able to crack this problem of getting a loan from the bank, which could be, so for these two things, there are two things that the organization did. One was to organize a online mela. So where they just had to give photographs and they were able to convert it something like an Amazon marketplace. So that really helped, and that made the ladies also get ideas on how to market and reach out to a better audience. The second one, which is being done, it's a tongue twister. It's called Swalambhan Sashakt. So it is a collaboration between SIDBI and the COVE. So they're organizing a series of webinars where they try to bring one example of a woman who's actually got a loan from a bank, her journey, along with one or two people from the banks, to talk to a group of women and telling them this is how this has to be done. The getting a loan from a bank is not a pipe dream. It is something that people have done. So this is a series of programs which is being done, and I'm sure these efforts will really help in getting more women entrepreneurs into the field. Yeah, I hope I've answered the questions.
Yeah. No, I think it's very, it has been very informative. And also the focus on how do you ensure that girl child and the women between the ages of 16 to 22 or 23 get inducted in and get mentored and supported in a world of entrepreneurship possibilities is very important. And you did mention how the ATL in charges, for example, in Adult Tinkering Labs, can play a very instrumental role in opening up the possibilities for the girl child, because as they go into, and especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities or rural India, we now have tinkering labs spread across all the 715 districts. And also there are a number of community innovation centers and so on that are being set up. So that comes a possibility for education to play a very important role, and the networking of all these ATL in charges that you mentioned, that can have a tremendous impact in building awareness and knowledge about how do you go about in all of this. And secondly, you also mentioned that it is very important for these incubators, like what Dr. Abha was saying. They can also play an important role in enhancing the awareness possibility and giving them opportunities through women-led startups and through the networking that can exist for them to be able to be supported in this. And there are many examples. In fact, I would like to specifically talk about how Tata Group, they have launched something called Second Career. And that is for women who have been educated, but who have left their careers because of, home compulsions and so on. But now they're ready to take on a second career. And these people can become entrepreneurs because they have the background of education. And as Prerna said, more than 40 million women who are well educated, sacrifice their careers for the interests of the family because they are not able to go regularly to an office to work, but they can become entrepreneurs and they can add tremendous value to the community and be able to run organizations even sitting down from their home. Now, let me go to Dr. Abha. When I look at the world of possibilities for women entrepreneurship, there are certain areas which actually stand out in terms of the predominance of women actually being part of that industry. And that is, one is the health and wellness industry. If you look at nurses, for example, right? There is a huge, Kerala, you look at how Kerala has developed the nursing ecosystem of entrepreneurs. You go to any hospital, even in Bombay, you'll find nurses from Kerala. You go to anywhere in Dubai, and it's created a big export market for, very in the health and wellness industry and in the nursing industry. Similarly, in fashion and textile, setting up boutiques and so on and so forth, women are able to, be very, very successful. Now, how do we take success stories like this and replicate it and scale it in our country? What is your ideas on how one can do that?
Well, so first of all, thank you for talking about Kerala, my own home state. So yes, Kerala has created a lot of models, but it's not necessary that the same model should be replicated across all states, because each state has got its own strengths. So if I were to talk about the other areas which are there, like even simple thing as what you call about farm entrepreneurs. You have these livelihood creators who have gone back to the villages and who have created something like that. And that's a happening thing in Punjab, Haryana, UP, and most of the northern states. So the creation of entrepreneurs in each state based on the strengths which are of that particular state should be leveraged. That is the first thing. Look at what is available in that particular state. What is it that the entrepreneur can definitely create out of the resources which are available, and then do it. So one of the things which is a trend coming up along with health, wellness, and the ones that you talked about is the reverse migration of entrepreneurs. So I'm going to digress a little from your question and talk about the specific trend. The reverse migration of entrepreneurs, earlier what usually used to happen is that entrepreneurs who wanted to scale up would migrate to the metros or the big cities where they were getting access to capital. But now the trend has reversed. People are moving from the cities back into the villages because they are seeing that there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of potential which can be created out there. So their own enterprises plus the creation of micro enterprises which are there. So, let me give you an example of what we as an incubator are doing in this particular area. We have reached out to 100 villages in our vicinity and reached out to the panchayats, the head punch which is there of each of these villages. We are bringing them together along with some of our entrepreneurs who are working in the area of farm and farm related enterprises. Like it could be creation of organic farming, it could be creation of food processing, it could be creation of even other assorted micro enterprises which are there. So bringing these two together and telling the people who are there from the villages that these are the things which can be created in your villages also. You don't really need to come out. The idea behind this whole thing was that migration of people into the cities is creating a lot of other issues, a lot of challenges, whether it is sanitation or there's crime and other things. So this is an idea that we hit upon, like how can we create this trend that we help accelerate the trend of reverse migration of entrepreneurs. So along with this, of course, definitely comes what we have is health and wellness. So people who have that kind of qualification and other things, they can go back into the villages and create small clinics which are there. It could be testing clinics, it could be anything. So the potential is huge. The only difference is leverage on the strengths of that particular state. That's what I'm going to say.
Indeed, the opportunity of India is the opportunity which lies in tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural India. Because we have only 8 tier 1 cities, we have 4,000 towns, small towns and cities, we have 650,000 villages. How do we ensure that we breed innovation and entrepreneurship in all of these villages and in all of these districts, remote districts of our country, so that we can create women entrepreneurs? And I think there lies the opportunity, like you said, that there is a huge reverse migration now going on, because that the bottom of the pyramid opportunity is there. And every village, if we are able to ensure that it becomes a hub of local entrepreneurship and job creation, women don't need to go elsewhere. They don't need to migrate. Their families don't need to migrate. And so there is a huge opportunity, not just for the women entrepreneurs, but also for the men who are there in those villages and in the remote cities. Now, I think one of the things that you brought out a very important point, and that is, and I hope this becomes an increasing trend with every university. We have 10,500 engineering institutions and 39,000 colleges. Why not adopt, and they are spread across a country, why not adopt at least 10 to 15 villages around and encourage women-based entrepreneurship in these villages? When you are, if a university adopts 10 local villages in and around their vicinity and encourages their students who can become the livelihood creators, and the beneficiaries become the livelihood entrepreneurs from these villages. That is the huge opportunity that is there right in front of us, and we should be able to tap into it. I also think, going back to Ms. Rama's point, that it is important to introduce women entrepreneurship courses in the universities, and the women students or the girl students who become part of the universities should be educated into these opportunities so that they can become the livelihood creators of the future. So that's a huge opportunity out there. Now let me come to...
Can I add on one small thing?
Yeah.
Sorry. So this thing that you talked about adopting villages, so BIMTECH has done that, and we have seen the change that has happened in that village in the last 3 years. So we adopted a village called Javar, which is nearby, and we worked on only the girl children who are there. So earlier their dreams would be to get married into some good family, and that's it. They would be like happy to pass 10th or 12th and get married. But now after 3 years, after having met a lot of role models like IPS, women IPS officers and entrepreneurs and others, their dreams have changed.
Absolutely.
And not only that, they have also been felicitated by the Vice President of India. When Sri Venkaiah Naidu ji actually met many of them, and they were also part of a parliament session which was there, and they have seen the kind of potential which is available. And these girls are now training girls from other villages which are nearby. And that for us is a success.
No, I think I personally believe, and I've been exhorting many colleges that please adopt. You want to drive innovation and entrepreneurship, it doesn't happen just like that. It goes by adoption of villages in and around or districts in and around your location, and then seeing what is the need, where is the gap, and how can we fill that gap through awareness building, through education, and so on and so forth. Now I come finally to, we are running short of time. So I come back to Ms. Kalra. Ms. Kalra, I see a huge opportunity in the food processing industry. We are one of the largest manufacturers, largest producers of milk in the world, largest producer of grains in the world, largest producer of certain fruits like banana and guava in the world. But we are one of the lowest exporters of value-adding food products to the rest of the world, right? And you are right in the middle of seeing those opportunities in terms of value-added food products coming and entrepreneurs being created who will not only be able to tap the domestic demand, but also the international demand. So what do you see as the opportunities for women livelihood entrepreneurs in the area of agri-tech, dairy, as well as food processing, value-added food processing?
Very well. In fact, I would say that there is a huge opportunity, and there are examples as well. Like we have seen Kremika, right, very recently, and it was led by a woman, right? But she got the opportunity and the like family support and everything, and see where the company today is, right? So the opportunity definitely is huge, right? But there is always a need for them to see the right path, and hence the ecosystem plays a very important role over there, right? And at Daalchini also, when we started with such vision in mind that we will create micro entrepreneurs, we also faced this as a challenge, whereby sometimes people questioned that, okay, is that possible? Is that possible to have that kind of a supply chain whereby fresh food can be serviced from a vending machine, right? One was people questioning it, and people who were producing, right, the tiffin services, right, the cloud kitchens, they were also questioning that whether people will buy it or not, right? So that is always there. I would say the opportunities are there and the challenges will always be there. It is how you meet both of them, right, and create an innovative solution out of it. So today at Daalchini, we have a supply chain running which starts 6 a.m. in the morning, where we work with a lot of cloud kitchen partners to produce food which is appropriate for vending machines, right? And then we have a huge network, I would say community of vending machine owners or these micro entrepreneurs, right? Who are basically have become a big part of our distribution channel, right? So coming on to your question that, okay, while we have resources of being a largest producer of a lot of agricultural produce, right? Are we also, and we are also a consumer, right? We are also a consumer, right? But I think the middle things, right, which is where we have processing and where we have the supply chain. These are the things which are missing. And a lot of companies, a lot of startups in this segment are also working like Daalchini, right? We have picked up the supply chain part of it, right? Is there a way that our supply chain become so robust, right, that they are able to source the food items from A and then spread across and service through the distribution channel of ours, which is also, right, very importantly, that while distribution channels are created, but it is very important that how you minimize the wastages, right, around this distribution channel, because success of a distribution channel lies over there only. The cost of the produce of the raw materials is very less, right? It is the distribution channel. So there are take first that we want to do maximum things which are technology driven. So today we have a ML based tool, right, through which we generate demand, right? That what is through which we project the demand of every single shop of these micro entrepreneurs, and we give them on the app, right? We tell them that, okay, tomorrow we expect that 30 meal boxes will be sold from your vending machine, right? So that, I think it is important that while we create ecosystem, etc., it is important how we leverage innovation and leverage technology, right, to solve problem for others and hence help them create a meaningful solution, right? So coming back to your point, revenue, right? Ultimately, if it makes money for somebody, right, they would like to be part of the ecosystem.
Thank you, Prerna ji. And I think on that particular note, that how do you leverage technology to drive the creation of livelihood creators and livelihood creation? that is the opportunity out there for all of us, all the women to tap into. And we learned many things during this particular webinar session. The importance of education, the role that teachers have, whether they are in schools or whether they are in universities, to spread awareness of the possibilities of entrepreneurship in India and also for the rest of the world. Second is how do you stimulate through our incubators and through the startups the ability to create many livelihood entrepreneurs, because you are able to now have affordable, accessible and available technology to be able to drive livelihood creation and livelihood creation opportunities. Third is we learned about the tremendous opportunities that are there in rural India if we are just able to address the ability to create local innovation and local job creation. The 650,000 plus villages. And today we have a digital India movement, which is enabling all of that. The ability to access finance for able to increasing your reach through mobile technology or communication technology, and to be able to offer your product, value adding product, and disseminate it through various channels. That is becoming possible. And finally, we also learned how it is very important to create a feeling of self-worth and self-confidence in every women entrepreneur who wants to launch on the entrepreneurial journey, because the opportunities are big. Take whether it is the value-adding food processing industry, whether it is in health and wellness or fitness, whether it is in fashion or textiles, whether it is in deep tech startups that you can create using which, whether it is in biotech or in transportation and many other startups that are coming up. The opportunity exists for both deep tech startups and entrepreneurial ventures to succeed in our country because of the demand. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the opportunity there in front of us. And we all have to play a role in enabling, encouraging, inspiring to extend the reach, revenue, and recognition of women entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for participating in this very, very absorbing and illuminating session. And I want to once again encourage all women entrepreneurs who are reaching out or who are listening to this to be able to encourage their fellow women entrepreneurs or people who are aspiring to be there to become a part of this bandwagon. And we also have a women entrepreneurship platform at the Niti Aayog. Anyone who wants to or aspires to become a women entrepreneur, please log on to that. You get connected immediately to a network of very successful women entrepreneurs and startup leaders. At the same time, you also are able to address problems that you have and find solutions through becoming a part of that network. Once again, this is Ramanan, Mission Director at Atal Innovation Mission, and I want to thank Dr. Abha, Dr. Rama, and Prerna for their invaluable suggestions and views in this particular session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.